Now, another topic that you and I are also passionate about is the future of work, and the way our
Hmm.
workplaces will eventually change. What's fascinating about the coronavirus is, if there were any silver line to come from this social isolation, it's the acceleration towards that future of work. In your perspective, what changes would you like to see when it comes to the future workplace, and what would be your ideal work environment?
Yeah, definitely. I think the so yeah. I mean, I have a side gig as in the corporate world, and you know, there are some big companies and even small companies that say, "Oh, you have to physically be there," and I think this has highlighted that that's mainly bullshit.
Hmm.
And the smart companies realize that and are pivoting quickly and realize and will save on space on real estate.
Hmm.
Software is much cheaper than a cubicle setup,
Hmm.
and the I guess the productivity, but productivity now is kind of a double-edged sword because there are some people that are being productive because they don't want to lose their job,
Hmm.
but because they have the extra time because of commute. I think that the future of work is kind of aligned with like the future of education. I have a lot of friends that are
Hmm.
educators, and there are parallels there. And kids, they are the ones that know, the latest technology. They know streaming. They may
Hmm.
not know Zoom right away, but they are used to talking to screens.
Hmm.
Teachers are the ones that are having the hard time. So much like in the corporate world, a lot of the bosses are, the parents and the folks that are working, they already know this technology. They already know how to communicate, So I think that is going to be evaluated. And, there's already companies that are already doing that. But
Hmm.
I think it's up to the people that are working to bring it up, and hopefully there is going to be a movement where they say, and it's not to say I want to work from home, but have the ability to
Yeah.
when needed, right?
Yeah, and I mean, especially when you talk about the, you know, how many limitations are in place when you have these rules that say you need to be in this physical office. So not only are you creating limitations for your actual workers, but you're also creating limitations on who can work for your company.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this will be a really interesting moment to see how remote work changes the opportunities available for people who don't live in major cities. I know that one of the things that I came across was people are predicting that there's going to be this exodus of people moving out of really big cities and just seeing a lot more people who are able to work from home in a more rural area. And I think just this overall
Mhm.
shift in how business is going to be operating is going to be really fascinating. And as you already know, on top of the massive humanitarian and economic crisis caused by the coronavirus, small businesses and practices are in the greatest hole because most of them can't access that emergency funding. They depend on
Yep.
in-person traffic, or their supply chain is heavily compromised with the closure of businesses. What tips would you have for small businesses that are stuck at home? Like, what would you advise them to do if they have no idea about social media, they have no idea about creating a digital online presence? Like, what would you recommend they do first?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously there are some businesses where um, they are totally dependent on foot traffic, like restaurants and things like that, which are totally, there are resources out there where, they're switching to delivery, those obvious things.
Hmm.
But I think in general, if you're small business, or I want to even say, take it a step lower, a solo entrepreneur, such as yourself, right? So people that run a business either by themselves or a small team of maybe two or three, right?
Hmm.
Making under $200,000 a year,
Hmm.
little, or even like a side hustle where you're making 10 G's a year,
Hmm.
you know. So I think the number one tip is, and hopefully by now, like I mentioned earlier, was kind of accepting the reality.
Hmm.
And being able to make a plan, because I think you mentioned if some folks don't know social media and things like that, I mean, you're not going to learn it now. I mean, unfortunately, but you should try. And that's why I've always preached that prepare for the worst. So, and sure, you know, you might look like an asshole, you know, whether you have like a bunch of beans or whatever, you know, or you have like, or you have, you know, like your savings to, you know, or you have cash on hand or, you know, things like that. Or you have these apps for your business that, you know, that you're paying for a gig backup, you know, for your files, but it's kind of planning. But that said, most businesses today, I think, or small businesses, and some of them are doing it, are really taking care of their customers, being present at the time and not trying to sell them shit, not avoiding the hard sell. I think a good company that's doing a big, good company that's big, that is doing that, like Lululemon's doing good. You know, that's why their stock's still like 190, which is fucking crazy. It went up. It even peaked at 200 because,
what have they been doing?
You know, well, because they already have the groundwork. They have the foundation. You know, they're kind of like a cult.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They have like a huge like cultural following and all that.
Exactly. And that's a foundation, right? So if you didn't have that before this pandemic, what makes you think people are going to buy your stupid, you know, striped shirt, you know, during this? Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't have the foundation, then you can at least then, you know, I'm sure like in March, everyone got emails from some mailing list like, here's what we're doing. It's like, okay, fucking, I don't know, Q-tip company, you know, I didn't know you know, who cares, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing that. But for folks that are like solo entrepreneurs, you know, where you have that, you know, deeper connection with your customers, is being there, being available and connecting. And I think that is going to set you apart, because after this is over, you know, you may not survive. That's the reality of it, right? But you give yourself a better chance at surviving.
Yeah, I mean, sort of going back on what you were saying earlier about the whole, like, you know, scrolling on the newsfeed and seeing some of these companies still placing ads and still going for that hard sell. You know, there are so many businesses that just don't have the, it's almost like social media communication literacy, you know, not knowing how to just communicate your message online and thinking that everything has to look like a brochure and thinking that that is what works on social media. And, you know, unfortunately, you're totally right that a lot of people are too late, you know, and they should have been building that infrastructure. I mean, obviously I would recommend people get into it now than never.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a lot is definitely going to have to change. But I have a couple last questions for you. My last question is, you know, about the version of yourself that exists when you aren't working or doing art or planning and being productive. What's something that you're passionate about that you never really showed people, that you don't really, like, you know, release or anything like that? Is there something that's a party that may be surprising to some people?
Yeah, it's a good question. Music, I guess. When I was living in the Philippines, I was in a band.
Oh shit!
And because, you know, like most Filipino guys in the Bay Area, you know, we wanted to be a DJ, especially, you know, in the 90s, right? You know, you're from San Jose, you know that. So everyone was a DJ at some point, you know. And so when I was in the Philippines, then I was really into music, so I did some music out there. And I did release an album back in the day on mp3.com.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. See, so that was a long time ago, and I've dabbled a bit of it, and but I think that's what, you know, I go to a lot of concerts, and you know, I have instruments and I have a lot of drum machines, and I collect these guitar echo pedals. I have like a vintage 1974 Space Echo that's a reel-to-reel, and that Radiohead's used, and, you know, it's huge, like that big. So that's something that I don't really show, but eventually probably. And that's, you know, and that's a good question, is like, sometimes I question myself, like, what's for me, right? You know, but I think because, like, you have that internal struggle.
Yeah, because like that's another thing that sometimes I struggle with, is like, you know, when you are creating art and you know that it's going to be released and published on your Instagram or whatever. Like, there's just a different feeling than if you do something just completely by yourself and you know you're never going to show that to somebody else. Funny thing is, when you're talking about music, I actually recently brought out my guitar and I've been trying to play it. I haven't played it since like high school, but it's like I got into it and I was I was super pumped, but then I just stopped learning. And so now that I'm like have all this fucking time, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna go ahead and learn this instrument. But again, Kristian, thank you so much for coming on. What are you currently working on, and where can the LLAG community find you?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on my online educational platform, and it's balayschool.org, BALAY. And balay is a Philippine word for home, so it's home school. And while the initial course is going to be specifically for Philippine writing, the next course is what I'm excited about, and it's going to be a cultural business course, specifically for solopreneurs.
Wow.
Because they don't, I went to business school and they don't teach that shit. It's always, and they don't teach about like, oh, how do you run your P&L in the light of white supremacy, or, they don't teach that.
Yeah. And I can't remember the full quote that you had talked about, but you had mentioned about how, it's like the importance of creating art and culture without having to worry about like the economic value of it, or how constantly worrying about the economic value sort of undermines the actual value of the art itself. And so I'm super excited to see how this project comes out. Once you have everything developed, I'd love to have you back on to maybe show us what you're working on and tell us a little bit more.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely plan to have folks in the LLAG business Facebook group go through it, and provide insight, and definitely that group's been helpful. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on. My website, kabuay.com, kabuay.com. You'll find me there on Instagram, Facebook, all the usual platforms. I have a TikTok, but I haven't put anything on there. Have you done shit on there yet?
I started one, but I haven't put on. I'm still. I need to get over the. Okay, I need to find. Like, I know there's
the shame.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Like, there's a lot of stuff on TikTok, and I'm trying to find like, okay, well, like what is the amount of cringe that I can absorb and feel okay about. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to start, because I know it's like everyone talks about how organic reach on TikTok is so amazing and you should start doing it, and I know I need to do it, but maybe I'll do it this weekend. But
do a lag dance or something.
We'll do it.
Your wife, that'll be cute.
All right, Kristian. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll definitely have you back on.
All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Take care. Bye.